Tonight, the dissolution of Peel Region is under question.
The city of Brampton was never in agreement for dissolution.
The cost of the breakup and potential tax increases are the issues at hand. We'll have reaction. Plus,
we have broken the all-time record for emergency department closures. This year is the worst year so far.
A healthcare group is sounding the alarm over hospital emergency room closures in Ontario. More on what they want to see from the government to stop them. And
they aren't taking adequate steps to protect the privacy of people.
Concerns about customers' privacy as items returned to Amazon show up at Toronto area liquidation stores with the original buyer's personal information still attached. There's new questions tonight about the Ford government's plan to dissolve Peel Region. It's supposed to happen in 2025, but we're learning the move to break up Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon may be in doubt. Olivia Bowden has more.
The Premier and I don't agree on a lot of things, but we do agree on dissolution of the region of Peel.
Bonnie Crombie spoke confidently just this morning about the impending breakup of Peel Region. The mayor of Mississauga and recently elected leader of the Ontario Liberal Party told reporters it was a done deal.
There is no reason that the fourth largest city and the third largest city need to be coupled together. There is a process in place. It is working very, very well.
But that's not according to some insiders. The Toronto Star reported this evening that Doug Ford is set to cancel the plan to dissolve Peel. Ford has not provided comment on the reports. An inside source told CBC Tonight that large tax increases has the province worried. And they said the transition board Ontario appointed to oversee the breakup is shocked by the price tag. Brampton has also released a report on increased property taxes if the dissolution happens.
The city of Brampton was never in agreement for dissolution. We never wanted it, and we were fighting against it from the very beginning.
And Caledon's Mayor Annette Graves told CBC Tonight that she's encouraging the province to rethink their decision. She says more time is needed to understand the impact on taxpayers. Ontario NDP leader Merritt Stiles also hopes the Ford government keeps Peel together.
I think it's a bad deal that was hatched behind closed doors between Bonnie Crombie and Doug Ford, and that a lot of people's concerns were left out.
In response to the Star's report, Crombie said, "I want to be clear that I'm not aware of any formal decision by the Premier or Minister to walk back the dissolution of Peel Region at this time." CBC Toronto also caught up to Housing Minister Paul Calandra at Queen's Park Tuesday night. But he didn't have much to say on reports Ford might back out.
If I have anything additional to say on Peel, I will ensure that you are the first to know.
Olivia Bowden, CBC News, Toronto.
The prospect of dissolution in 2025 has the union that represents paramedics in Peel Region concerned about the future of their jobs. The union's president says the transition board has not been forthcoming with information.
We don't know if we have collective agreement rights, we don't know if we have seniority rights, we don't know if we have vacation. Ultimately, we don't know if we have the same job then as we do now. They're absolutely concerned that they'll have to reapply for their jobs without the same pay and benefits.
The union says if they don't start to get answers soon, they fear many of their members will leave the region for jobs with more stability, which could lead to a staffing crunch in the near future. One of Ontario's biggest healthcare networks says 2023 has been the worst year it has ever seen for emergency room closures. The Ontario Health Coalition says it's an issue the government must fix. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has the story.
This is the most high-profile ER closure. In Minden, the letter H and the word emergency gone as of June. A permanent closure. Now an urgent care clinic with daytime hours.
Everyone's walking on eggshells. It's like, gee, I want to clean out my gutters, but what if I fall?
But many people in Ontario have experienced temporary ER closures, mainly in rural and northern areas, maybe lasting a weekend or overnight.
We have broken the all-time record for emergency department closures. This year is the worst year so far.
The Ontario Health Coalition calculated 868 emergency room closures this year, plus 316 at urgent care clinics. Some of the worst ER closures, 324 in Clinton, closed overnights. In the town of Chesley, there were 196, including weekends and overnights. Mainly, it's staffing shortages.
We should be seeing the Premier on TV in high rotation commercials, calling back the recently retired staff, smoothing the way, paying their licensing fees, offering incentives, getting all boots on the ground. It should be an all boots on the ground effort.
Today, the opposition asked what the government will do about this issue.
What is this Premier going to do to stop emergency department closures over the holidays?
We have a new program in the province of Ontario, peer-to-peer emergency department physicians being able to phone a friend and talk through issues. That has ensured that people actually have access when they need it.
Phone a friend, Speaker? That's their fix? Are you kidding me?
The government says it's brought in more nurses and doctors, is investing $44 million to help ERs stay open, and extended the locum physician program that brings temporary doctors to rural and northern hospitals.
We expect to hear more about emergency rooms tomorrow. It'll be one of the topics covered by the Auditor General in his annual report. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Advocates are calling for a moratorium on encampment evictions. It comes almost 2 weeks after the city cleared people from a tent city near Kensington Market. Dale Manukduk has more.
Sign the letter if you haven't signed the letter. Call the mayor. Tell them that you support a moratorium and that you want a transformed system. A system that respects the dignity of every person.
Signed by doctors, educators, union leaders, among others, is an open letter to Mayor Olivia Chow, calling for an end to evictions of unhoused people. The letter also calls for investment into adequate indoor space and for City Council to collaborate with people on the front lines on how to approach the homelessness crisis.
The claw is not the way to do it.
Nearly 2 weeks ago, the city moved several people from this Kensington Market encampment.
This was the last safe place that people could come. And we held it for as long as we could as the last safe place. You can see what it is now.
At the time, the mayor said the encampment was unsafe and had to be cleared because there had been 3 fires. There was no use of force. Instead, outreach workers offered people space in hotel shelters.
No one had been forced to be moved to date under my watch. The city staff have been bringing people in a voluntary way to come indoor.
The letter doesn't just call for an end to encampment evictions, it also wants to see an end to several types of displacement, including rent evictions, dem evictions, and service restrictions within the shelter system.
There's automatically a consequence.
Dredds Green has experienced many forms of displacement. He's lived in encampments and shelter hotels.
I am being kicked out, and where am I going to get a safe space to go? And even just asking those questions, you're being escorted out by 4, 5, 6 police. They're picking you up by limb like you've done something destructive in the environment. When all you're asking for is like, okay, you're relocating me. Where am I going? I refuse to leave because you're not telling me where I'm going.
Ultimately, she's going to another shelter.
Chow has previously said that no one will be moved from encampments without being offered an alternative. Last week, she said the city will have $200 million per year going forward to fund shelters as part of Toronto's new financial deal with the province. The advocates want the city to pass an emergency motion to place a moratorium on all evictions of unhoused people when council meets next week. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
And there's a live look at our city skyline. Cloudy with a chance of flurries tonight, currently sitting at around 0 degrees. Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast and kind of your average December day out there today.
Yeah, I tell you, I guess, the temperatures, daytime highs today, not necessarily anything to write home about, as we say. A lot of 1, 2, 3s, 0 for Oshawa and Kingston. But we had the cooler air into eastern Ontario, also helping to preserve some of the snow that fell, 10, 15 centimeters through Ottawa. You can double that into southern Quebec. That holds for a few days before things are going to be changing up there. And in terms of what's happening near the lower Great Lakes, even up towards Georgian Bay, a few isolated flurries, not a lot of activity. That clipper that moves south of us pushing off. It's really through the day Wednesday. There will be times where we get some sun in there mixing with our clouds, so it'll be nice to see some of that, even if it's only sunny breaks. It's really Wednesday night, so tomorrow night into Thursday, we will see a warm front pushing through that's going to give us a dusting to a few centimeters of light snow. I'll have more detail on those accumulations coming up. There's your numbers, though, for your temperatures overnight tonight, and the high tomorrow, just 0, Talia.
Thanks, Colette. Mayor Olivia Chow says it's time to push forward on a light rail line to serve East Scarborough. Her executive committee has endorsed a staff plan to spend nearly $10 million more to design the project. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has more.
Bright red bus priority lanes line Morningside Ave. They're part of the city's effort to ensure Scarborough transit riders take priority on increasingly jammed streets. But on Tuesday, Mayor Olivia Chow's executive committee endorsed another plan to improve transit on those same streets. It agreed to push ahead with design work on the Eglinton East LRT.
We are actually spending money and beginning to plan it because it's long overdue. The Scarborough residents need better public transit, and that line have been talked about for, I don't know, more than 20 years. And finally, we are going to begin the process of planning it and making it happen.
The proposed 18-kilometer line would have 27 stops throughout eastern Scarborough. But with a price tag of $4.6 billion, it still remains unfunded by the province and federal government. And city staff are warning that if they don't come through, money spent on planning will be lost.
Scarborough local residents, I am confident, will say to their elected representatives of all levels of government to say, come on, this had been promised to the Scarborough residents for 20 years. Where is it?
The line would run along Kingston Road, north on Morningside Ave, and then circle back west on Shepherd Ave. Councillor Paul Ainsley says it would serve Centennial College, U of T Scarborough, and the growing community in Melbourne. The buses in those priority lanes are full now most days, he says.
I ride them all the time in rush hour. It's standing room only. We need that enhanced capacity, and that enhanced capacity is only going to come through an LRT.
My support for the project is very personal.
Transit advocate and podcaster Helen Lee made an impassioned plea to the councillors to support the project. She wishes the LRT had been in place when she was a student at U of T Scarborough.
I wanted to see it move forward because that's what the residents of Scarborough deserve, and that's what the students of both UTSC and Centennial College deserve as well. They deserve access to rapid transit and to not have to be on packed buses all the time. It's pretty simple.
While the committee endorsement is a key step, council must still approve the additional spending at a meeting later this month. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
Durham police have identified a woman who was found in a wooded area in Bowmanville last week. The body of 40-year-old Erica Saunders was found by officers last Tuesday while they were conducting a search on an unrelated matter. Police say her remains were found near Simpson Avenue and Baseline Road. Her death is not being treated as suspicious at this point, but police are asking anyone with information to come forward. The jury at the inquest into the 2016 death of an Ontario man at an Ontario jail heard today from a former inmate who was in the cell across from Suleiman Fakiri. That man, who was once interviewed by the CBC's Fifth Estate, details the alleged abuse Fakiri faced at the hands of guards. Tyler Cheese has more and a warning some may find the details disturbing.
John Thibault was housed in the jail cell directly across from Suleiman Fakiri the day he died. Today, at the inquest into Fakiri's death, the jury was shown an interview Thibault gave to police in 2019. The details of his statement line up with what he told CBC's The Fifth Estate, also in 2019.
So they got him in the cell, and they started beating him. And every time he got up, the only place he had to run was the back of the cell, and I seen him run into the wall 2 or 3 times. This went on over 10 minutes before they called the code blue finally.
In his police interview, Thibault says guards started beating Fakiri as soon as they pushed him into the jail cell. Footage shown previously at the inquest only shows what occurred in the hallway outside. Thibault says he was able to see what happened through the window in his cell door. He also says that Fakiri did not fight back against the guards, but rather tried to move away from them. Soon after, Thibault says a guard shuttered the window in his cell door, blocking his view. Today, the jury also heard expert testimony from the province's chief forensic pathologist. He outlined his conclusion that Fakiri died as a result of injuries from being restrained and pepper sprayed. Previously, the cause of death had been deemed unascertained. This latest evidence comes in the final days of the inquest. Due to scheduling changes, the jury is now expected to begin deliberations by Friday. Tyler Cheese, CBC.
Welcome back. Have you ever wondered what happens to items you return to online retailers like Amazon? Well, it turns out some are ending up at Toronto area liquidation stores, complete with shoppers' personal information, including names and addresses clearly visible. Ryan Jones explains how Amazon is trying to put an end to it.
They aren't taking adequate steps to protect the privacy of people.
Arthur Stewart says he had no idea a product he returned to Amazon would end up in this Scarborough discount store. He says it's not an issue it's being resold, but it is an issue, he says, that the shipping label showing his name, home address, and phone number wasn't removed.
That, to me, is open territory for scammers and phishers to be able to exploit those things.
I visited 2 of the discount store's locations where I saw 36 packages with shipping labels containing personal information. 2/3 were Amazon returns. It was unclear where the rest of the items were returned to. Then we bought some packages and worked to track down some of the customers whose items had been returned to the stores. It wasn't very hard to find them, given that their names, addresses, and in some cases phone numbers were right there, visible on the boxes. I was recently shopping at a discount store. I came across a box with a shipping label that includes your name, address, and phone number.
Oh, that's not great. No, I assumed that they would at least take my information off.
How do you feel about your personal information being exposed like this?
I don't like it. Just having your information out there for anybody to access if I don't want them to. I don't care for that.
Ontario's former privacy commissioner says it's a privacy breach.
Their personal identifiers linked with anything without their consent, which is obviously the case here, can cause, at times, unbelievable harm to those individuals.
As online shopping has grown, so have the amount of products being returned. This lecturer says returns can be expensive and challenging for Amazon and its third-party sellers to manage.
These things are outweighed by a fast and effective process for just getting rid of the product.
An Amazon spokesperson says it sells to liquidators who are supposed to remove customers' personal information before they in turn resell packages to discount stores, and that the online giant is now launching an internal investigation. Meanwhile, the Office of Canada's Federal Privacy Commissioner says it will also look into the issue.
All these organizations, I know they have privacy policies and practices in place, but they should be taking a constant look at how they do business and how they can continue to improve the way in which they protect the privacy of their clients and customers.
As for the store that sells the returned items, the owner says he'll hire more staff to make sure people's personal information is no longer visible. Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette's back now with our extended forecast, and some areas are bracing for some colder temperatures coming their way.
Yes, Talia, earlier in the show I was alluding to that snow in eastern Ontario and southern Quebec may be there for a little while, but then things will be changing, and that's because the temperature pattern will be changing. So looking at some of that colder air, and of course there was that Clipper system riding along the upper winds that passed just to the south of the lower Great Lakes, made things a little messy earlier today in southwestern Ontario, but there is a warmer ridge building to the west of us, and as that moves towards central portions of the continent or towards the Great Lakes, we will get into, now this is after tomorrow, we will begin to get into a warming trend towards the end of the week and into the weekend, but there will also be the steep trough here, a system getting more organized around the Great Lakes, and that is going to be a wet event rainfall, but windy conditions in there too for Saturday, but especially Sunday. So, all right, let's just take you through the next 24 to 48 hours. Losing that Clipper system, losing some of the cloud cover so that we should at least get a mix of sun and cloud at times before it fills back in for the GTA. You'll have a better chance in eastern Ontario or southwestern Ontario to get some peeks at the sun through the day. Tomorrow night, this will hit you a little bit earlier into the afternoon hours, but mostly tomorrow night and overnight into the GTA, where we will have that dusting of light snow. In some cases, it is going to be a couple of centimeters. So just looking at some isolated flurries tonight, but then it's when we add in that Wednesday night into Thursday, where you can see it starts to add up a little bit. That may be a little bit enhanced there for St. Catharines. Then overnight temperatures, yeah. The cold air still holding there in eastern Ontario. It tries to push down south, and that's why our daytime highs tomorrow, Toronto just 0, and then the warm front will come in. It's going to bring that light snow, and then it's going to start to pick those temperatures up leading into that wet weekend. But a very nice Friday coming up for Sounds of the Season.
Perfect. Thanks, Colette. Our Leafs have a bit of a break before their next game on Thursday, and in between games, the team made a stop at Sick Kids Hospital to bring some holiday cheer.
We're here at Sick Kids today doing our annual visit, which we haven't done since 2019. So this one feels a little bit more special, just because it feels good to be back. And
it's one of our favorite days of the year to come bring some smiles and some excitement to the kids' faces.
Players were joined, of course, by mascot Carlton to spend some time with the young patients, distributing gifts, taking photos, and signing autographs. The team says the tradition of visiting sick kids stretches back almost 100 years. And finally tonight, it may have taken 65 years, but Brenda Lee's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree has finally hit #1 on the Hot 100 Billboard list.
Rockin' around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop.
It's been a classic holiday tune for decades. Lee recorded the track when she was just 13 years old, and now at 78, she's the oldest woman to top the list. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching.